Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday. Normally I would start my Sundays off trying to do a little bit of a weekly catch-up, chat, things like that, but I think I'm going to put that off for this week because the weekly chat ended up a bit in the middle of the week last week, and maybe that will work better for me at the moment. We will see how we go. We are still adjusting to new timetables and new work schedules, new schooling schedules and all the rest of it, and it's still a little all over the place. And honestly, I'm feeling it. I'm a bit tired, a bit worn out, and a bit overwhelmed with all the changes happening all at once, and the pressure on me, which is to be expected in this, moment of flux where we're figuring out who is taking over what and things like that. So what we do need to get done, probably over today and tomorrow, which is what I'll try and I think that's what this video will end up being, is the food prep for this week. So what I think I need to try and plan is to have a couple of days of well thought food prep each week to try and take advantage of a couple of the days. So like the Darryl's at church at the moment with some of the kids. The twins are home with me. They are tidying up inside their living space at the moment. So it's nice and quiet. I got some work done this morning on the computer. It's now 9:15. So I got some work done on the computer this morning, and I have plenty more that needs to be done. I have to submit a whole bunch of work samples for the kids to the school and things like that. And our space is really untidy at the moment because when we rearranged the kids' space, a lot of stuff ended up being dumped into our space, and I badly need to get on top of that too, but it's just been too hot. It is a little bit cooler today, and I'm rambling as per usual. This is, to anyone who hasn't been around, this is how my videos go. So you either love it or you hate it. But weather today, let's have a look at the weather station that is up on my roof. It is saying that it is 30 degrees and 43% humidity at 9 o'clock in the morning. That does not bode very well for the rest of the day. Now, the forecast from the nearest weather station, which isn't that close, says that there will be a high of 35 today, and generally speaking, we get a couple of degrees warmer than that. So 37, 38 we're expecting today, so not the greatest day, and apparently the chance of some rain from 3 p.m-ish. So we shall see. I've got some washing in the machine at the moment, so if we can get that out, it'll be dry before it rains. If it's not going to rain till mid-afternoon, so that'll be good. I'll do a couple of loads of washing. But there has been some requests for a few different things. Kavik really desperately wants some cinnamon scrolls, which is fine, so I'll mix some dough up for those as their treat for the next couple of days. I might do pizza dough for dinner tonight, and then that way Darryl and I can do the pizza cooking for dinner tonight. That will be nice, something different. But I also have half a rump that needs to be sliced up and done something with, that we opened and used for a beef red curry the other night, and so I need to do, now it's been opened, I need to do something with it. We do have a pork roast. I need to check the date on that one. The intent was to smoke some of it. So if it's going to rain, then that's not ideal for smoking today. So we might plan to do that tomorrow or Tuesday. I'll just double check the date. My SD card ran full. Obviously, I forgot to delete the old stuff off it when I was editing last night. In regards to lunches for me, I'm still figuring that out. I've said that in every video. It's still an ongoing process. I did buy those super cube type things. I have one more brand coming, so I'm going to end up with 3 different brands to give a go. I do have silicone freezer cubes that are similar, but they don't have the ridging in them, and I think the ridging will help with the removal and defrosting. But at the same time, some of the ones that I have probably would have worked perfectly fine. Now that I look at the ones that have come, I don't know whether they're the same sizes, but it probably would have been okay. A lot of the ones that I have no lid or have flexible lids, and I don't like that for anything. I don't like it as much as I like rigid lids. The Super Cubes have rigid lids, and the 2 generic brands that I bought, which I'll link when I show them to you, off Amazon, also have the rigid lids. That's why I picked those 3. So we'll have a look at them. I want to do some rice and things like that in them. So we will look at that. Maybe if they turn up, we might do some of that on Tuesday. We will see how we go. So let's start with the pizza dough. My battery on my camera is pretty low too, which I hadn't realised. I must have plugged in last night. So let's start with some doughs, get them sorted, and then I might go and charge the battery while it's going. I also, when I was cleaning up some of my stuff, I bought some new containers for storage and stuff, found a kilo of medjool dates in a sealed container that I hadn't used yet. So I've got those to use for some sort of energy bites or something too. So I might look at that today as well. But we'll start off, we'll get the pizza dough done first, and then it can be put aside so I can shape it and put it in the fridge. And I might even pull some prawns out of the freezer. And then if I'm cooking up that rib, we could have reef and beef pizzas for dinner tonight and make some hollandaise. Got plenty of eggs at the moment. So, you know, anyway, let me grab what I need for the dough. Right, my standard pizza dough recipe. We start with 700 grams of water. This recipe is up on the website. I will try and remember to link all the recipes that I use today, but we will see. We're going to put 10 grams of yeast. We're going to put sort of 20 grams of salt. We want 50 grams of oil. And we want about 20 grams of sugar. And then we just want our 1100 odd grams of flour, which will bring us up to about the 2 kilo mark of total weight for this dough. And then we can break it into 200 to 250 gram balls depending on what I want to do for the night. So super simple. 2 kilos. All right, we've got our dough hook, and we're going to need this. Now, I only own the one KitchenAid bowl, which is unfortunate. I do need to buy myself a second one. So I will need this. Grab a container, put it out, and then we will do the light brioche dough, which is my hamburger bun light brioche dough for the cinnamon scrolls. We start on one till it all comes together, and once it's shaggy and the machine sounds like it's starting to struggle a little bit, we turn it up one, and then we just knead it till smooth. This is all it needs to be. It's still shaggy-ish. It doesn't need to be super smooth. It's a pizza dough, and it's going to well and truly proof because I'm going to leave it for probably 20 minutes, and then I will shape it into the balls. And then once it's in the balls, it will go in the fridge until we cook it tonight for dinner. So I've greased my proofing container, so all we're going to do is scoop it into there. That, just coat it with that little bit of oil that's in the proofing container, and we will put that aside. Now I cannot find the lids for these containers at the moment, so we're just reusing the plastic from yesterday, and we will find them. I'm not sure where they've ended up. Okay, so then I'll do a light brioche roll for the sweet cinnamon scrolls. Now, I was thinking that I might do some like cheese and Vegemite scrolls or something, but I don't think I'll do it today because there's still some baguette rolls left. We're doing pizza for dinner tonight. I've got to cut up that beef and stuff like that. So I think lunch today we will do the baguettes probably rather than me making something else that's then got to also be eaten today. We might do that tomorrow or Tuesday. There'd be good things for them to heat up for lunch. If I do it Tuesday, it'd be good for them to heat up for lunch on Wednesday and Thursday when I'm not here. If I do a double batch of like savoury scrolls. So light brioche dough, it is also on the website. I have my notes here. So I'm just going to grab a bit more water. And this one we do 720 of water. Normally I would warm this up slightly because I'm going to use some coconut milk, or actually I think I've got that UHT milk from the other day open, so I might just use the UHT milk, and it'll be cold. But I am not in a rush today, so doesn't really matter. So we want to bring this up to 900, and as I said, I'm just using, normally I use coconut milk because we've always been dairy free and that's what we've done, but we are using dairy, and I have that UHT milk that I dropped the lid for and have to find, that I opened for whatever I used it for the other day. So that is in the fridge ready to go, and we don't use it for anything else. 900. What am I doing? Yeast. As I said, this recipe is up on the website as well, so I'll try and remember to link it. 25 grams of yeast, 30 grams of yeast, depending on how quickly you want, up to 150 grams of sugar. These are a sweet bun, so we will, and I just reduce the sugar in the filling. Nice sugary dough is always nice. We want some oil, 150 grams of that, and then some salt and flour, and we are putting 1250 grams of flour in this one. Now the reason I normally use straight out the bucket is because recipes use so much flour. These jars sometimes are pointless, but they're good for small things. Let me just fill that back up. All right, 1250 grams of flour in there. I used it straight from the tub while I filled up my jar as well for next time. And we're just going to bring this together as well. We want this a lot smoother than the pizza dough. So we'll bring it together on 1, turn it to 2. I'll bring you back when I'm putting it in a container for proofing. All right, we've got a much silkier dough for the brioche dough. Now, you don't have to go brioche to make cinnamon scrolls. You could use pizza dough, and pizza dough is a lot easier to handle, honestly. But if you go to the effort of creating a brioche style dough for your cinnamon scrolls, then they stay softer longer, and they have this, it's just a really nice texture because it's a dessert. Now, when I go and make the savory ones, I'll just use my pizza dough. But for the sweet ones, the added milk in the dough and the slightly higher hydration and things like that really lend to them being soft. And some people like them cakey, and they would have egg in their brioche dough. I don't like egg in my brioche dough. I like my brioche dough to be what I classify as light, which means it has some enrichment in the milk and stuff, but no egg, because I just find that, it ends up a bit too cakey, and I'm not after a cake. I'm still after the mouthfeel of a bread product, but I do want it to be a little bit soft. So at the moment, this dough is pretty hard to handle. It's slightly tacky, things like that. As it proofs, it gets better. If you want to make it even easier, doing those stretch and folds a couple of times every half an hour. It only takes about an hour and a half to proof, maybe 2 hours depending on your weather. So if every 25-30 minutes you do a stretch and fold, it will be slightly easier to handle as well, but you don't have to. Really, honestly, use a little bit of flour when you shape it. You're only rolling it out to roll it up, so it's not that big a deal. But this is my hamburger light brioche dough done, ready to proof. So now I'm going to tidy up. I'm going to go and sip my drink my coffee for 20 minutes and charge the camera, and then I'll be back. All right, so I sat down for a while. Now, the brioche dough has proofed a whole lot quicker than the pizza dough for some reason. I did use more yeast in this, but it's also an enriched dough, which normally means that it would take longer to proof, but it's done pretty well. So we will work on this one first, but I do need to do the filling for it. So I'll have to mix that up first so that when I roll this out, I've got the filling. So he wanted cinnamon scrolls, so we're just doing a cinnamon filling. So let me grab some butter and stuff. All right, ideally we would start off with softened butter, except I forgot to pull it out. So I've got a block of butter here. These are 227 grams or something. We will just use this one. And I'm just going to cube it up and put it in the Thermomix on a low temp, low spin, just to soften it a little bit. And then we will add the sugar and the cinnamon as well and whip it all up. All right, so we've softened that butter slightly. We're going to add about 10 grams of cinnamon, I suppose. I like mine pretty cinnamony. And 100 grams of sugar. I don't know if this is enough because of the was miscounting. I was thinking while pouring then. I don't know if this is enough filling for this will split out to 2 different rolls. I'm not sure, can't remember. Let's have a look. Alright, we just whip it up on speed 5 and then have a look at it. There we go. So we've got a whipped butter cinnamon sugar filling like this, which will make it nice and easy to spread. But yeah, I'm not sure whether this is enough for 2 or if it's 1. We will see. We can always go really light on the filling and I can make a cream cheese icing because I've actually got some cream cheese left over in the fridge from Christmas. And the kids, I don't know if I've made a cream cheese icing for the kids before because we've only just started reintroducing all these dairy things. So they might like that. We'll see. So the dough is pretty sticky. It's pretty warm, it proofed pretty quickly, so we're going to use a bit of flour on the, where did I put my flour jar? A little bit of flour on the board, and yeah, this will split into 2 lots of rolls. It's coming out nice and easily, which is always a good sign. But then we're just going to bring this little bit of flour into it, onto the surface. Just to make it easier to roll. Now something else I need to do today is hot chocolate powder. Something else that needs doing is chili oil and ramen seasoning. So I don't know if I'll get to that today. That might be a tomorrow task. But yeah, okay, so next I'm going to split this approximately in half because it doesn't matter if it's not completely even because we're rolling it out into cinnamon buns. I just want to get this piece put aside. I've got you angled down. I'm just trying to get this piece sort of like you would if you were making a boule or whatever, just to get it sitting so that I can put it aside. So basically doing a pre-shape for bread dough like that. And we could turn this into a loaf of dough. We could roll this in such a way that it went into a loaf pan with the cinnamon sugar. That's an idea. I'm just going to put it in here for the moment. And we're going to work with this one. And this one we will roll out like cinnamon scrolls because that's what was requested. And I do try and fulfill requests. So let's work this one out a bit. Just like this. Going to use my rolling pin because I can. I'm just moving you back a little bit out of my way. I'll just stretch and let rest a little bit if need be until we can get it evenly sort of rolled out. Because we're proofing it again, it's fairly forgiving with being overworked. So all I do is I just use my dough mat. This is just a Thermomix dough mat. I think the measurements end up being like, 50 by 40 or something. There is measurements on it, but I think the internal circle ends up being about 50 by 40. So I just use that as my goal, and we're just gently stretching it, and if it pops back in a little bit, then we're letting it rest for a second before we stretch it to the corners again so that the dough relaxes. Again, I'm not selling these. These are requested by the 10-year-old. so it's not such a big deal. But I think that's what I shall do. All right, now we have our mix, and I do think that this was only a single roll recipe. So all I'm doing is leaving a little bit of a gap up the top. I'm sure I've made these plenty of times on here, but this is a prep day, so I'm showing you what I'm prepping. These will last a few days too, because they're that enriched dough, and especially if I put some cream cheese icing on top, definitely. But I have been known to put them in a pan and reheat them as well. So, all right, that's a good coating. I reckon there is some left in there, so yeah, maybe I'll make the other one like a swirl roll or something, and then it can be had with something else on top if so desired, like spread. And then we're just going to roll this. Now, if you roll your edges first and keep them fairly straight, the middle will follow, and that way you have a more even roll. Whereas if you try and roll the middle, you're going to end up with your ends aren't matching. So if you do your ends first and keep them nice and straight, and then follow the middle afterwards. Now this, as I said, this is my brioche dough, which means that it's a very soft dough, so it's not the easiest thing to get a nice smooth roll on, but it makes up for it in texture and flavour, in my opinion. But if you want these really nice, smooth, even scrolls, you need to use something more like the pizza dough, something that's got a little bit more, a little bit less hydration, a little bit more body to it. The Thermomama doughs, a lot of people use those. They're very basic white doughs and they work perfectly well. All right, so then we've got our log. So all I'm going to do is grab a pan, and I'm going to cut this up into scroll pieces and put it in the pan. All right, I'm going to line my pan with some baking paper, like that, because these will seep out. I like to use a serrated knife to cut my scrolls, and I just do it gently, and I'm not concerned about the mat underneath, but I find that it is what works best. And I never know how many I want to cut it into, so what I tend to do is I tend to half and half and half and that sort of thing, or thirds if need be, but I think that this can go in fours. So, and as I said, this dough is very soft, so you just have to be gentle with it, and it's not going to be some nice uniform shapes, but I think that using the brioche dough just lends so well to the texture and the longevity of the rolls. But feel free, my pizza dough would be a really nice easy one to use. Now, I like to put the end pieces towards the center because they're the smallest pieces. They just inherently are going to be the smallest pieces. Now the join on the rolls, so the bit where the overlap, you want to put that towards another roll because that will help it to hold its shape. And all we're doing is placing them, pushing them slightly. Again, there's options. You can put them slightly further apart so they don't end up as joined, but this is how we like it, sort of like a cinnamon scroll pull apart almost. And then I'll slather it with some icing afterwards. So I'm going to put the plastic back over this. I'm just going to wash my hands. So I'm going to put the wrap back over this and let it proof for a while, and then pour that one and do the other rolls. All right, we're going to go super simple with this. This is my other loaf, and all I'm going to do is spread it out, not quite as flat as the last one, because we don't have as much filling for a start. We're winging this one. I've done plenty of filled loaves, but we're winging this one, okay? We'll see how it looks in the end. All right, so we've got that. Now I'm just going to roll this way first. I'm making a mess on purpose. I want this to be fluffy, and because we're not flattening this one out as much because we want to keep some of that air in it, because it always takes longer for things in a loaf shape to proof. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to put the seam on the bottom, so I'm just going to flip that a little bit. All right, like that. Now we are going to, from the top, cut it into 3 strands. Now this would be so much easier to do if I refrigerated this dough or whatever, but we are being impatient and not waiting today. So I'm going to get this apart and spun over, nice and messy. And this one the same. Where's my dough? There. So we've got 3 strands. We're going to flick this one so that it's got the thing, and we are just going to very, very messily braid this, because this dough is not much fun to work with in this manner, but it is going to be effective in the end, because look at all these stripes of cinnamon that are going to be in this. This is going to be a bit like monkey bread, I reckon, because of the texture of the dough. So all we're doing, and we're going to compact this into a loaf tin. So all we're doing is we're braiding it like this, and then we're going to spin that one out that way. And look at that, like, for such a messy and rough-handed thing, it worked out perfectly. Now I might just, instead of putting it in the loaf tin, I might just put that straight on a tray, because it'll cook quicker that way. I think that'd be kind of nice. So we'll put this on a tray, and then we'll let them proof for 20 minutes, and we'll get them in the oven. Alrighty, I got the pizza dough out. So we have been doing these at about the 200 gram mark, because they're a little easier to handle in the small gas pizza ovens. So it ends up being about 10 in a batch, and we just use the extras the next day or whatever. Sometimes I just turn them into flatbreads the next day. So we're going to, so it's now 11 o'clock, so these will sit in the fridge. I'll just ball them up and cover them in semolina in a container, and they will sit in the fridge until 5 o'clock this afternoon when we're ready to use them. So they will continue to proof, just at a much slower rate, and we could use them tomorrow instead of today. Like, they will last up to sort of 72 hours, I suppose, in the fridge, and still be perfectly usable. So I will pull these out sort of half an hour before we're ready to cook, and they will be handleable and sorted. So we will just get these. Darryl's looking for me for one of the containers that I use for the pizza dough. I need to buy a specific one. I've got one on my list on Amazon to buy myself. I just haven't got there yet. So I will get there. But yes, so I'm going to put these away in the fridge. I'll show you them tonight. All right, we're going to make the scrolls are out of the oven and they're still warm, so we're going to make some cream cheese icing. So I'm just going to I'm going to go really simple like I did with the rolls. We're just going to wing it. I'm just going to throw 1 block of cream cheese in. I'm using the bowl that has the cinnamon sugar, so our cream cheese icing is going to look funny coloured. Don't care. Saves washing another bowl. So I'm just going to throw the end of whatever this amount of butter is left in. A block of this block of cream cheese, which I don't even know what these blocks are. 250.
That much butter. Block of cream cheese. Whatever's left in the bowl.
And we'll put a pinch of salt. A tiny bit of vanilla. There's no spoon in here. I'll have to grab a spoon. And about, I don't know, 120, 130 grams of icing sugar. I just happen to have icing sugar from Christmas baking, so I don't have to grind any up. So that ended up being 144 grams. And I'll just grab something to get some vanilla out with. Just a little bit of vanilla. And we're just going to whip it up. About 15 seconds, speed 5, we'll scrape it down and we'll run it again. And then I'm just going to spread it evenly across both trays. So I didn't put these in a sided tray, like in a much of a rimmed tray, just these ones, which means it's all spread out. The knot has spread out as well. But I did that kind of on purpose because if I put them in like one of my cast iron trays, they would have taken a lot longer to cook. And I just wanted them done and sorted nice and quickly. So all I'm going to do...
What do you call the spreading method?
Spreading.
Spreading.
Slather it with some...
Slip, slop, slap?
Yeah. Now, this will melt into them and keep them nice and soft. And this is probably, like the filling, this is probably only really 1 tray's worth of icing, but that is plenty for us who rarely have icing at all. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm just going to put whatever's left on my very spread out plait, which will still pull apart.
Like I flattered it.
Which will still pull apart nicely.
That's plenty.
Yeah, I only did half the filling too, because it's got like 200 grams of sugar. That was enough for both of them. But we don't eat a lot of sweet stuff either, so there you go. That's those 2 done. You can if you want. So everybody has had lunch. Everybody has had cinnamon scrolls. And this is where I run into trouble. It is only 12:15 and I've got a lot to get done. But it is now 36.9 and it is gross. Unbearably gross at the moment. Some days I tolerate it better than others. Today, not so much. So I'm going to have to take a break for a bit, and then hopefully it'll cool down a little bit, have some water, and then come back to keep doing the stuff that I was planning on doing. Alright, so unfortunately it is now 38.5 degrees. It is really warm and uncomfortable and pretty gross, but it doesn't stop the fact that there is stuff to get done. So I've just put a slushie on for the kids using some of the mango passion fruit cordial that we made a couple of videos ago. I got this rump, so I opened it and cut it open 2 days ago or so it needs to be sorted. I'm going to cut some steaks off it that I'll vacuum seal for Darryl because he doesn't mind eating just rump steaks. It's a bit tough for me and my face, but he doesn't mind it. The rest of it, what I want to do is cut really nice and thin and potentially velvet it, really lightly velvet it, fry it off and freeze it. Now, the intent with that is that things like the noodles that we eat, the ramen style noodles that we eat really quickly, or some of the pasta dishes and things like that, if this is pre-cooked and frozen, will only require simmering in the water that you're cooking the noodles in to cook. Really quick thing to add to a lunch rotation. that is the idea anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting some steaks off that are with the grain as I go. This one's not a very good one because I had cut part of it before. I'm gonna have to pull it all out, I think, to have a good look, but I'll show you what I'm doing. So for the stuff that we're doing as a velvet and pre-cook, we actually want it fairly lean. So a lot of this excess fat, we're not going to use. The dogs will get a treat, but the steaks I'll try and make sure are nice fatty pieces for Darryl. And then all we're doing is we're cutting some nice small pieces because we want them to freeze quick and we want them to cook quick. So grain's going across the steak, so I am going to just cut some knife. Just sharpen this knife and I've just managed to cut myself. Nice thin slivers like that. I'm gonna have to find a band-aid to use as stir fry steak. Just like that. All right, I'm gonna go and have to wash my hand where I just cut it, get myself sorted. All right, so I just cut some thinnish slabs off there that I'm going to vacuum seal. I'm going to wrap these in plastic for the moment for Darryl for just eating as steaks. And then we're just going to sort out the rest of it. Now, I regularly make like pies with the with rump, and then I would use all these fat and everything in it as well, and they're lovely because rump just falls apart so well. But I just don't think I want to at the moment. I'm trying to clean out the stuff in the freezer as it is and figure out what's there, and we're picking up the half beast at the end of the month in a few weeks' time, and we'll have plenty of beef that will be good for making pies and stuff with. So I think that I'm going to leave it for the moment. Plan on trying to clean out the freezers before we pick up the beef and just use this particular one trimmed down, which I hate doing because there's a lot of bits that you cut off that are perfectly edible if you eat it a certain way, but because I'm going to quick cook it and velvet it, we want minimal amounts of fat and sinew and stuff. So but the dogs will get a treat tonight, probably tomorrow night as well, with their dry food. And yeah, I think we will benefit from not putting more in the freezer at the moment. So we cut the steaks this way because that was across the grain. We're going to cut these bits this way, which is with the grain, so that I can then slice them thin against the grain, because that will make the tenderest stir fry. All these, little things that you have to do to make it work. And then we're just cutting thin strips. The thinner the better. Thin, sort of off against the grain, and I will bring you back when I do a light velvet on these, and then we'll cook them off, and we'll use some of that for pizza tonight. Some I will flash freeze because I want to freeze it so that it's not all clumped up, because we want it to cook and defrost really nice and quick. So I want to spread it out. I just talked about not putting stuff in my freezer. This is different. This is going to be some small amounts and to be used over the next couple of weeks is the idea. So I'm just going to keep going, cut all this up. All right, my mic is on charge, so the sound probably isn't very good. I'll put some music and tone overs and text over if I have to. This is the beef all sliced. Ends up being around about, I had 2.5, 2.6-ish kilos. So what we're going to do is we're going to put about 3 teaspoons of 2 and a scant of bicarb straight on the meat. Right, now we're also going to add, we're going to use ramen seasoning on this one. You could use bouillon, garlic powder, anything you want, but this has a mix of all that on it anyway. And I need to make fresh stuff, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to clean that up and use that jar again for the next one. I'm also going to do a little bit of dark soy sauce, just a little bit. A little bit of sesame oil. And we're going to put a couple of tablespoons of water in here. And then we're going to massage it all up. Right, so we've got that water in there now. And all we're going to do is coat that bicarb spice soy mix through the whole thing. Then I'm going to put a lid on it. And I'm going to put it in the fridge for about 25-30 minutes. This is cut really nice and thin. It will not need very long to velvet. Just that little bit of time for some of the meat fibers to relax. So do that, and then I will fry it off. And we will fry it off sparsely in the pan so as not to overcrowd it. And then we will flash freeze some of it, and some of it might go in a bag to use with something else. I don't know. This is a trial run of this. Some we'll use for pizza tonight, actually. Some of these nice big pieces will be nice, sort of cooked and then curled on pizza, so we'll see. But this is going to go in the fridge for the moment, and I will bring you back. Alright, it's been about half an hour, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the steak in batches. We want to flash fry it, we don't want it to overcook. It's really thin, it's beef, so we just want to put a small amount in each pan, give it a good zhuzh around in some hot oil, get the pan nice and hot between each batch, and then I'm just going to put it in a container, and we'll decide what to do with it. I'll pull some out for pizza tonight. I've also got to get those prawns sorted. I pulled them out of the freezer and stuck them in the fridge earlier. But they're probably not defrosted yet because our fridge runs colder than normal on purpose. So I'll have to pull them out and do something with them. If we want them on the pizza, I might just boil the whole kilo. And then I can use them how I want. And any leftovers can be used tomorrow, sort of thing. So yeah, just zhuzhing around in some nice hot oil, pull it out, and I'm just going to do batch after batch after batch until I get through the whole bowl. So it'll probably take me 6, 7, 8 rounds. So when I get the next lot on, I might put a pot on to boil, and then that way I can just throw the prawns in a pot while I'm standing here. Alrighty. Cooked. It's delicious as usual. Now, I was lucky enough to score one of these new style thermoservers from Thermomix for selling a Thermomix last month, which is pretty amazing. I think Michelle bought last month from me, so thank you, Michelle. And these are pretty awesome, a lot better than the old style ones in my opinion. So all I've done is I've just put it in here for the moment, and then these thermoservers have a silicone trivet on the bottom, a silicone handle for the sides, and I'm just going to let it, it's not sealed completely, but that's fine. I'm just putting it away out from the flies and stuff for the moment, and I will go through and grab some out for the pizza soon, but I just want to put it aside for the moment. The water boiled, so the prawns are in the water. I'm just waiting for them to float, and it is 4:30, so I am going to do one last thing before I start getting ready for dinner, and that is the hot chocolate powder, because they're going to need it for tonight. So a kilo of prawns just boiled. There's ice in the bottom, and I'm going to put a bit of ice on the top, and we're going to let them cool. When you want prawns on pizza, you definitely want them pre-cooked. The pizza just doesn't cook long enough for them to cook, and well, if they're defrosted it will, but they lose a lot of moisture when they're cooking, and so they make the pizza a bit soggy. So ice in the bottom, them on top. I'm going to put some ice on the top, put a lid on it, let that cool, or put something over it. I don't want to put a lid on it because I don't want to trap the heat. And let them cool as well before I'll peel them for using with the pizza and whatever else we use them for. Alrighty, it is 5:10. It is still 37 degrees and I am wiped. I'm not going to start dinner yet. Pizzas, they're going to be late because it's just too hot. But I'm going to mix up this hot chocolate powder because it's the last thing I need to do, and then I'm going to go sit down. So hot chocolate powder we do in parts. I've made it a few times on here, but this is part of our prep for the week sort of thing. I do it in parts. So we do 2 parts of sugar. So we're going to do 400 grams of sugar. It's so warm that the Thermomix is registering as it's already been heated to 37 degrees, even though it's only just been turned on. So, scales open, we've got 400 grams of sugar. And I'm just using raw sugar because that's what we have. And I'm going to grind that sugar to icing sugar. Just 20 seconds on speed 10. What we're looking to do is get the texture of this the same as the coconut milk powder and the cocoa and stuff so that they blend better and they don't settle and change. Now, I've got cocoa sitting here for some reason. I'm not real sure why, but I do. So we want 1 part of cocoa. So we had 400 grams of sugar, which was 2 parts. So a single part will be 200 grams. We got all the dust from the sugar. 200 grams of cocoa. Alrighty, we're going to add a pinch of salt, except I need to get salt, and we're going to add the coconut milk powder. Now, I buy my coconut milk powder in bulk. You could be using cow's milk powder if you were making this with that, but it is one of the things that is easy to maintain dairy-free because it's what the kids are used to, and I buy the coconut milk powder in a 15-kilo bag, so I have plenty to use up. So we want 1.5 parts of coconut milk powder, so we're going to use 300 grams, and then we're going to bring that together. And we are going to also use a starch. This will help with the texture of the hot chocolate. It will help to thicken it and make it more creamy. Any starch will work. This is cornstarch. And I was going for about 150, ended up with 190, which is fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Going to bring this together. It's got the milk powder and everything already in it, the starch in it to help thicken it. So they just blend this with hot water and marshmallows normally. We have some store-bought marshmallows at the moment, which is why they were keen to have some hot chocolate powder. But I quite often make the homemade maple marshmallows as well. Not doing that today because there's some store-bought ones. So that's the hot chocolate powder. So that's the last thing I'm doing other than making the pizza. So I'll show you the pizzas when we make the pizza. But that is it for today. Didn't get anywhere near as much done as I would like, but I'm done. All right, pizza. We have prawns cut and split in half, butterflied. We have the beef. We have pizza sauce, onion jam, cheese, anchovies, and pepperoni. That's what we're working with. So I'm going to make some hollandaise as well in between. I'll get 2 pizzas going so Darryl can get them in the pizza ovens, and then I'll get that started. Alright, so we're just going to put a scoop of pizza sauce and some of the onion jam on and blend that. Like that. Put a tiny sprinkle of cheese. The pepperoni that we got from the hamper that we are still eating through many months later, which is fantastic. Be weird once we run out though.
Why pepperoni?
Yeah. And then I don't know whose pizza this first one is. Do you want that? So does Kavik want prawns? Probably not.
Kavik, do you want prawns? Yeah, with a thumbs up.
Sonnet said there's no bin in the bag. There's no bag in the bin.
That happens.
Shouldn't happen with that one.
No, it happens saying that.
I was like, bin in the bag.
Saying that happens, yes.
If you had a small bin in the big bag, you put the small bin in the big bag.
Or a big bag in a
or a small bin, not a big bag.
That's what I said. You can't, there's no other way you can do it.
Or a big bin and a big bag.
One of them's still going to be smaller than the other.
Or 1 inch smaller. Whoa! That looks beautiful. Jeez.
Good lad. Good approved.
And there we go. We're just going to get those in the oven, nice and simple.
I should show my skills of flicking.
Yep. One down, lots to go. So I'll just make them all the same way, and I will make the hollandaise in the Thermomix. Now, one of those things that are awesome in the Thermomix, I just throw everything in. So we put the water, lemon juice, egg yolks, butter, and turn it on to thicken, and that's it. You got hollandaise, and we will use that to drizzle over the pizza, which is what when Apollo was a baby, so 14 years ago, when Darryl and I lived metro, we used to order pizza capers all the time, and I couldn't have dairy because Apollo was nursing and he was allergic to dairy, so we used to get the reef and beef from Pizza Capers with no cheese, but with hollandaise sauce on it. Because it was, a pre-packed hollandaise that was dairy-free. Mine's not. But we have made hollandaise dairy-free using Nuddle eggs. It works quite well. All right, mine's the last one in, and it's just about done. And this is what we've got. This is our lovely, rich hollandaise to drizzle over the top. So Darryl's going to bring it over here, and I'll show you it. And, he didn't do his flourish. Are you doing your flourish?
You're
gonna cut it first.
Lifting and
Okay. Jeez, interrupted.
Kapla,
Kapla, yeah.
Today's a good day to eat pizza or something. I don't know. I'm not a Klingon. What do I know? You can drizzle.
We just do the drizzles like you get when you used to order them from pizza stores, but a little bit more generous. Pizza caper was where we used to get it, yeah, but a bit more generous.
Gonna have some pizza with your hollandaise sauce?
Yep.
Whoop, nope, that didn't quite go.
You're on camera, of course it didn't.
I got every single one of them, just flipped it on there like, boom, look at me, I'm professional.
So that is dinner, and that's it from me for tonight. Hey everyone, so it is Monday, and I need to finish off a couple of things to finish off the end of this video. I probably could have just finished it off where it was. Once I pulled it into the computer, it was now over an hour and a half worth of footage, so I probably can condense it down to my average size video, but I did say I was going to get this stuff done, and this stuff is not a standalone. It is already 3:30 in the afternoon. It's been a rough one again. It's really hot, and not coping fantastically well. So it rained, and it's a little bit cooler out here now, which is nice. Humidity is quite high, but it's a little bit cooler. So I thought I'd come out and do this before I finish this off, and then that way I can edit this tonight to get out tomorrow and start fresh tomorrow with the stuff that I want to do for them for while I'm at work. We had leftover pizza for lunch today, and other than that I've just done mostly admin work and spent time with the kids. So, but we are all out of chili oil and ramen seasoning, and that's something that they use a lot of when I'm at work and stuff as well, because they make ramen for meals. And I also did all that beef up with the intention to try it in some ramen and stuff like that, so it's something that needs to be done. So I do this every few weeks, and I've recorded it a few times, but we're just going to quickly go over it to show you again what I'm doing, because it's all part and parcel of the prep for when I'm working, when we're in the middle of the month and things like that, to make the food last. So I buy the noodles in bulk. I don't think they were on the last grocery shop because I bought them in bulk the time before. I'll have to remember to show them. I don't know if I need more this trip, I'll have to check, but I buy the noodles in a catering pack. Woolworths sells them in these big packs for $7, and I actually found some online when I couldn't get any at Woolworths as well, and I bought a couple of boxes of them. So the kids eat these particular noodles. They're one that's basically flour and water, and that's it. They're just a noodle, and they use these to make ramen with. So they have that as an option at all times, and they normally poach an egg in their noodle water and have it with an egg, and then they'll have it with, sometimes they have it with leftover gyoza. If there's leftover gyoza, I'm going to have that beef as an option. I might do some chicken in a similar way, shred some chicken and flash freeze it flat so that they can just break off a chunk of it to have in the noodle water as well, because it would warm up really quickly if it was done that way. So we're going to have a few different ideas. It's a really great winter lunch as well, because it's nice and warm. So first up, let's get the chili oil started. So let me grab that. Now I buy these 750ml peanut oils from Woolworths or Coles, just the Woolworths or Coles brand. I did notice that Costco has some in bulk. I haven't compared the pricing. This is convenient because I just do an entire 750ml bottle, and we will fill 2 quart jars in the end with chili oil. So I just find that that's a convenient amount. So we're going to get that on the heat. All right, I've toasted up some sesame seeds. If you want them nice and evenly toasted, you want a really wide pan. This is a shallow one with a fair bit in there, so all we're doing is getting some heat through. Some go pop, some get some colour, and that's enough for me. So I've toasted those off, I've turned that off. My oil is at temperature. I will just quickly put it on low again before I pour it in, because I got sidetracked finding everything. All right, we want about 500 grams of peanuts. This is the way we like it. There is many variations of how you can make it. I like it with heaps of peanuts and sesame seeds and stuff, because I like the texture to go along with the heat. So 500 odd grams of peanuts. We want 200 odd grams of these toasted sesame seeds. I didn't weigh them when I put them in here, so we might have a few more than we need, which is fine. I will put the rest in a jar because I will use them as a sprinkle anyway. We want 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. This one?
No soy sauce? Okay, right.
Can you grab me a tablespoon measure, please? We're going to put a tablespoon of bouillon in here as well. Again, all these flavours are optional as to how you use them. Yep, so 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. We're going to use about half of the jar, so this is 20 grams, so we use about 10 grams of it. We like heat, but not overwhelming heat. All right, and then we want some black pepper. Again, we've got heat, but not overwhelmingly so. So just 2 big pinches of black pepper. Oops. And then normally I use some black vinegar, but I think I'm out.
There's such thing as black vinegar.
There is black vinegar. So I'm just going to put a dash of mirin, which will add a little bit of the sweet and sour as well. And then you can add garlic, onion, whatever you want here. Now, I don't like to use fresh garlic because the kids aren't very good at storing it in the fridge. I normally use the fried garlic, but I think I forgot to buy more last shopping trip, so I'm pretty sure we've run out.
Did you use the extra ones?
Extra ones what?
Didn't you buy like extra packets of them?
Did I? I don't know.
I think you did. I'll go have a look.
Sonnet thinks that I've got some more in the crates, so she'll have a look. But garlic, onion, fresh onion, whatever you want to use. But the thing is that we're making this in a large batch and in large jars, and the kids are hopeless with putting these jars in the fridge. Now, it doesn't have to be stored in the fridge, but when you've got fresh garlic and stuff in there, it's a good idea. So I tend to just not. And I'll have to order some more of those chili flakes, the fried chili, the fried garlic flakes, because they taste really nice, but they're a really nice texture as well, and we'll just add them on top rather than in the chili oil. So once that's done, let me double check my oil. It's come down in temperature a little bit because I said it took longer than I had hoped, so we're just going to bring this back up to 150 and then we'll pour it over. All right, so our oil is at 175 or 350, 175 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit. I don't know what I said before. I think I said 150, but I got them mixed up. So once it's at that temperature, what we're going to do is we're going to pour it over this. Now, it will spit a little bit, so just be careful. What it's doing is it's cooking off those spices, heating up those peanuts, those toasted sesame seeds and everything else. So be aware of the bowl that you're putting it in. This is melamine, so it's fine. Put that in there. And then what we do is we just give it a bit of a stir. Be careful because it's going to spit at you. And then I'm going to leave it to cool down for probably half an hour before I transfer it into quart jars. And then it will come up to temperature. We found onion flakes, so Sonnet wants me to put some onion flakes in here as well. I should have done that before we put the oil in, but that's fine. It'll still heat up. So there's some onion flakes in there as well for flavour. So this has to come down to sort of room temp before we put it in the jar, or you know, warm but not hot, and we'll put it in the jars. So just going to let that sit. All right, so the other thing we need to do is the ramen seasoning. Now I could do with a funnel. Do you know where the funnel is? Is it hanging up? All right, 200 grams of bouillon. We're using the Knorr chicken, which is a nice tasty one. We want 60 grams of smoked paprika. Just tap the jar, there's some stuck on the bottom, we need to refill it. 56 is close enough, I need to refill my jar. And then 60 grams of onion flakes. We may need the other jar of onion flakes. There's a glass jar like the one that you got the garlic out, the garlic one. So 60 grams of that, we just had to grab the second jar.
12 grams, is that the 12 grams?
Yep, so you need to take it up to 60. Close enough is fine. We're going to add 60 grams of garlic powder.
Why is everything 60 grams?
Because that's the ratios that I decided on. And then a pinch of black pepper. Now you can add other flavours here, like you could add some onion powder and things like that, but the bouillon that we're using has plenty of those flavours in there, so it's really not that necessary. So all we need to do is just lid on that one, give it a shake. You don't have to be particularly violent in your shaking, but Sonnet doesn't do anything half-hearted enough. Don't you throw that jar or knock that oil.
Yummy.
All right, yep, so then it's all mixed up and it looks like this. Now, the kids are happy to just use the bouillon straight. They don't even need the seasoning, but for me, I like that it has the added flavours, and it also reduces the salt a little bit by having the extras added in. Lasts a little bit longer than the bouillon, because the bouillon is, for some reason my spoon's not fitting. The bouillon is about $18 a container, I think, which still doesn't work out too bad because I think it's a kilo. I'm pretty sure it's a kilo. It's about $18, I think, for this one. And so if you split it into the 200 grams, then you're paying $1.80. 200 grams, $3.60 per 200 grams. That's making enough ramen to last us a couple of weeks. So that's okay. So that's done. So the oil, I'll quickly bring you back when we're putting it in a jar. Other than that, be careful, it's very hot. Other than that, we have the ramen done, and that is it for now. Tomorrow we shall start again with other stuff. So we've got this cooled, and now we're going to put it in the jar. So what I like to do is use a perforated spoon and get the solids out first so that they're fairly even within the two jars, and then I tip the oil over the top. I find that works the best way to make sure that, because you kind of want enough oil that it's over the top of the solids. So by doing this, it seems to work well. Do that. All right, and then the reason I use this melamine bowl is because it has a pouring spout. It's not the greatest pouring spout in the world, but it's better than nothing. So then we pour this over as evenly as possible, taking the last lots of solids like that. Now, we are going to have some noodles with some of the beef and poached eggs and stuff. I'll take a photo of it when it's done. So once I'll do that, I'll take a photo of that, and then that will be it for the end of the day. 2 jars chili oil done, new ramen seasoning done, and all the stuff we got done yesterday.